Now let us talk about forest and wildlife. Forests are biodiversity hotspots. What do we mean by biodiversity? One criteria of the biodiversity of an area is the number of species found there, which means we can consider that for particular area the number of species are found. So that can be referred as biodiversity of that particular area. However, the range of different life forms like bacteria, fungi, ferns, flowering plants, nematodes, insects, birds, reptiles, and so on found is also important. So these all are various different life forms which are found. One of the main aims of conservation is to try and preserve the biodiversity we have inherited. Experiments and field studies suggest that loss of biodiversity may lead to the loss of ecological stability. So, it is our duty that we conserve and preserve the biodiversity which we have inherited. Now, let us talk about stakeholders. This is very important, students. Please learn it well. Stakeholders are who? Stakeholder is a person having interest or concern for something. So here we will learn different types of stakeholders. We all use various products of forest, but our dependency on forest resources varies. Some of us use alternatives and some do not. When we consider the conservation of forests, we need to look at the stakeholders. So, here are the stakeholders of forests. Who are they? So, here mainly we will learn four types of stakeholders. The first are the people who live in and around the forest. Second one, the forest department. Third, the industrialists. And fourth, wildlife and nature enthusiasts. Let us talk about first type of stakeholders, who are the people who live in or around forest. They are dependent on forest produce for various aspects of their life. We all know that the people who live in forest and around forest, they will be depending for their life on the forest products only. Then, second type of the stakeholder, they are the forest department of the government, which owns the land and controls the resources from forest. So the people of this forest department are who? They are the people of the government which owns the land and controls the resources, all the resources from forest. Then the third type of stakeholders are the industrialists, from those who use various forest products, but they are not dependent on the forest in any one area. Okay, now here I want to give one example. We all know the use of tendu leaves. Tendu leaves are used to make BDs, to the ones with paper mills. Okay, so this third type are stakeholders are the industrialist. They use various products, but they are not only dependent on one particular area of forest. Once they have taken the things from one area of the forest, they can use other area of forest also. So they are not dependent on the forest in any one area only. Okay, let us look at the fourth type of stakeholders, and they are the wildlife and nature enthusiast. And these people want to conserve nature in its pristine form, which means these are the nature enthusiasts who want to conserve nature and preserve this nature as the way we have inherited it. So they want to conserve it at its best. Now, let us take a look at what each of these groups need or gets out of the forest. So in detail we will see now what do these people need from the forest. The local people need large quantities of firewood. They also need small timber. Timber, Timber. Timber is wood which is used for carpentry, also which is used for making buildings. These local people also need thatch. Now, thatch is what? It is a roof covering which we all have seen. So, this type of covering, that is roof covering, which is called thatch. Then, bamboo is also used to make slats for huts. What is the meaning of slat? It is a narrow piece of wood which is used to make this type of huts so that the hut made properly. People also need baskets for collecting and storing food materials. Then, implements for agriculture, fishing, and hunting are largely made of wood. Also, forest sites are for fishing and hunting. In addition to this, the people gathering fruits, gathering nuts, and medicines from the forest. Also, their cattle graze in the forest area or feed on the fodder which is collected from the forest. Here we have a question. Do you think that such use of forest resources would lead to the exhaustion of these resources? Here, we do not have to forget that before the British came and took over the most of our forest areas, people had been living in these forests for centuries. This we all know, right? And these people who were living in forest, they had developed practices to ensure that the resources were used in a sustainable manner. They were using it in a proper manner so that the resources will be sustained. But after the British took control of the forest, these people were forced to leave their area and they were forced to depend only on smaller area of forest, and they told them to be dependent on small forest resources. The Forest Department in independent India took over from the British, but local knowledge and local needs continued to be ignored in the management practices. And thus, vast tracts of forests have been converted to monocultures of pine. These are pine trees. Teak trees. This is a type of wood. Teak is a type of wood which is from the tropical tree. Also, the forests are converted into eucalyptus. Eucalyptus are the type of tree which are generally found in Australia, and it produces a oil with strong smell. So these forests have been converted into monocultures of pine, teak, or eucalyptus. And in order to plant these amount of trees, huge areas are first cleared, and they cleared of all vegetation. This destroys a large amount of biodiversity in that area. Not only this, the varied needs of the local people, like leaves for fodder, herbs for medicines, fruits and nuts for food, can no longer be met from such forests, because these type of forests are converted into pine, teak trees, or eucalyptus. So these type of things, whether it is nuts, medicines, fodder, this all type of things cannot be taken from this type of trees. So this all things are now not to be taken from the forest. And these type of plantation, teak, pine, eucalyptus, are useful for the industries to access specific products and are an important source of revenue for income, right, for the forest department. So as the wood is useful for the industrial work, that will be good income for the department also. And do you know how many industries are based on forest produce? A short count reveals timber, which is used for making buildings and used for carpentry also, as we have discussed earlier. And it is used for paper, lac, and sports equipments. Now, lac is what? It is a substance which is secreted by the female insect, and it acts as protective covering. It is helpful for making dyes, sealing wax, etc. So, industries are based on forest produce like sports equipments, paper, timber, etc. Industries would consider the forest as merely a source of raw material for its factories. Since these industries have a greater reach than the local people, they are not interested in the sustainability of the forest in one particular area. For example, after cutting down all the teak trees in one area, they will get their teak from a forest further away. So, when we were discussing the main types of stakeholders, I have told you that these industrialists are not limited for particular one area. Here we'll take example of teak trees. For taking teak trees, they are cutting in one particular area initially. Once they finish cutting all the trees in that area, they will go further away in the forest. In this way, they are not at all sensitive towards the sustainability of the forest. They also do not ensure that this type of forest products will be there for generations to come or not. So, this is all about the people, the stakeholders, which are industrialists.